Well, Seline, thanks so much for taking some time to hang with me today. I appreciate it.
Of course, David, thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right. So I know that you have moved between the United States and Dubai at least once or twice, I think. And I've been to Dubai a couple times, and wow, what an amazing place. Um, I can't imagine because when I moved from Kentucky to California, I was 16, and I got made fun of for the clothes that I wore and my accent. I had a Southern accent.
Southern drawl, yeah.
Oh, and so,
I like the accent actually, but
well, maybe I'll, magically have it come back. Um, how did you go about building, friendships and meaningful relationships in those moves?
yeah, David, it was really tricky and it still is. I mean, I moved around a lot, as you pointed out. I grew up in Dubai and I lived in the United States for a few years. Of course, I'm here now. Out in Los Angeles, but I also lived in Sweden for a bit. I don't know if you know this. I lived in Sweden for about half a year. And it's been interesting. I mean, Dubai is my hometown, so I already have an established base there. I have a community of friends that I met socially. I have friends from school. I have my family, of course, family friends. And in the U.S., all the friends that I made were in the schools that I went to, the colleges that I went to,
Hmm.
and I also made some friends in the workshops and the seminars that I attended. And I think that's normal. A lot of people tend to get close to those who are in close proximity to them. I mean, it's just easier, right? And there is a term for this in psychology, and it's called the exposure effect. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's also called the familiarity principle.
Hmm.
People tend to prefer things and people who they see more often, who they're familiar with, and they tend to associate more positive qualities with them.
Hmm.
Um, but that doesn't always mean that they're a good fit, that they're actually compatible with them. It's just that it's just more convenient, you
Right.
know? And I realized that this was happening to me when I found it increasingly harder to relate to people around me. As I got more involved in my interests in personal development and really developing my career as a content creator, as a journalist, I really felt the need to really reach out to people who share my values, who can inspire me, who can really teach me something new. So I started joining online groups. I went to workshops. I went for meetup events, and I started like seeking like-minded people. But that's not to say that we shouldn't associate people with whom we have a common interest or who don't seem like a perfect fit. I think that you have a different dynamic with every person that you meet, right?
Hmm.
And I have a couple of girlfriends who I love to go out with. I love to have, well, I don't drink, so I go out for coffee. And, we just people watch, we have a good laugh. And it doesn't matter whether or not I have an intellectual conversation with them or, deep philosophical conversations. I just have a good time. So I think that when we're looking for those meaningful, genuine connections, we should be open to different kinds of dynamics.
Hmm.
And that's what I've learned over the
Hmm.
years.
Take me back. Like, how old were you when you moved to the United States? Did you come here for school? And like, what was
I
that
did.
first
I,
like?
yeah. I
Did you
was
have a
17.
Southern Dubai accent or?
So I was 17. But just to give a bit of context, like I am extremely familiar with the United States, like because we travel, my family and we travel there very, very often when I was growing up because my dad had some business associates in San Francisco. So we would go there like almost every year. And so I knew the American culture. It was
Mhm.
nothing new. It was nothing new to me. There was
Mhm.
no, I mean, there was a little bit of culture shock because visiting a place is very different from actually living there.
Sure.
Um, uh, I remember a funny story. Like in my first semester in school, we had an 8 a.m. class, and it was on a Monday. And I woke up at 6 o'clock, and I got ready. I made an effort. I got my hair done. I put some decent clothes on, I mean, that's just the Dubai girl in me. That's what I usually do. I mean, I do dress up a little bit. And when I went there, I saw girls in their pajamas,
Sure.
in their sweatshirts,
Yep.
and their
Yep.
hair all messy. And I was just shocked. I'm like, how can they come to class looking like that? It was, yeah. So things like that, it was just, it amused me.
Sure.
Um,
I had a similar experience actually moving from Kentucky to California, because in Kentucky, it was a bit more of a preppy environment. Now, this was back way back in '89 when I moved. So there was a bit of a preppy kind of vibe with like Sebago leather shoes, khaki pants, a
yeah.
polo. And then I moved to California, and it's shorts and flip flops and tank tops to school. And we weren't even allowed to wear shorts or a tank top to school in Kentucky. And that was just a public school. So, I had that kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? I had to figure out how to dress myself. Did you start showing up in sweatpants and crazy hair soon?
No. I mean, I couldn't. Well, I became a little bit more casual, but I couldn't get to that level.
Sure. um, so because you traveled a lot and you ended up going back to Dubai after college, is that correct?
I did. I went back. I was there for about 10 years, give or
Yeah.
take.
And was that challenging moving back? I know you already had some friends, but like, was that a reverse culture shock?
It was. It was. It took me a while to get back to the whole Dubai groove, even
What were
though,
the challenging things?
wow, what was the challenging things? I mean, it was just I'd say the people are different. I mean, you're dealing with different cultures in Dubai. First of all, Dubai is a melting pot. You get people from all over the world. Um, but I don't know, something about the United States. There's a sense of freedom. There's a sense of liberty. There's a sense of, not that it's not there in Dubai, but I feel like here that there's a lot of options. There's a lot of openness, and I feel a little bit constricted when I'm out there.
Hmm.
And that took me a while to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel more at home in an open society,
Mm-hmm.
where there's a lot of diversity. So, which is why I like it out here in the United States, and that's why I am here, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Is your family still in Dubai?
Yes, everyone's out there.
Okay. How do they view you? Are you like the black sheep? Like you've just gone astray? You're out in crazy Vegas, Hollywood, trying to.
Yeah. I'm definitely the black sheep. My mom is like, she's all for it. She's like, yeah, go do it, go chase your dreams, do whatever, just stay out of trouble. And yeah, my dad is a bit more conservative and old school, and he doesn't really get what I'm doing right now. So, but that's okay.
Um, One of the things that you mentioned in the beginning was the whole idea of being in proximity to people and that it's easier to make friendships that way. One
Yeah.
of the things that I have found is that the older I get, and even my wife and I as couples, trying to make those other friendships post college,
Yeah.
when you're not necessarily, and I work from home, so I
Hmm.
don't have like this office environment. All of my colleagues are scattered around the globe in terms of people that I work with. So
Yeah.
I don't have work colleagues that I'm connecting with on a daily basis that kind of develop those friendships. And so how have you, and maybe it hasn't been a problem for you or a challenge for you, have you found that as you get older, finding friends becomes more challenging because you don't have that proximity of going to school every day or week with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone can agree that once you get out of school and college, it's just so much harder to make friends. It's just, as you said, it's because you see people on a daily basis, and not only that, you're going to the same institution, and you have so many things in common. There's so much to talk about, all those commonalities. You're going to the same classes, same teachers, you can talk about homework assignments. So you have something to bond over, and that's not always the case when you get out, unless you make friends at work. I don't know how many people do that, um, but yeah, it's really hard to make friends once you get out of those places, and you have to make a concerted effort. But I mean, even now, because of social distancing, we can't really go to places and build our network like we used to. We can't go to events. And I mean, I was planning to do that. I was planning to really build my personal and professional network by going to all sorts of events. That was a plan I had in mind post-graduation. But of course, that didn't pan out for obvious reasons. So now I think we're limited to the internet. And I think we're so lucky to have this platform, to have this medium to communicate with people from all over the world. You can join forums, you can join message boards, you can go on social media, join the conversation that's happening there, because there are a lot of conversations going on. So I honestly, David, I don't feel lonely. I mean, I can connect. I have so many people that I connect with online. I do Zoom calls, FaceTime. So I think virtual connections, they're great. I mean, of course, they're no substitute for face-to-face connections, but I mean, that's the only choice we have right now. But I think we should be grateful because 100 years ago, when the Spanish flu was happening, they didn't have any way to stay connected to anybody, So when that pandemic was going on, so we should feel really lucky to have the internet, social media.
Help me think through some options. If a woman's listening now and is feeling, she is feeling perhaps a bit disconnected or lonely. Maybe there isn't that ability to connect as easily in person as you've mentioned. What are some options in terms of either people that she already knows or possibly people that she'd like to get to know? Like, give some practical tips of what you would suggest that she could do to not wait another 3, 6, 9 months to develop meaningful relationships and use the pandemic as an excuse. But like, what would it look like to start that now?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, using video, meeting people on video chat, video calls really is, I think, the best way to kind of create that intimacy, the closest thing to creating that intimacy of an in-person meeting, but also getting creative, like trying to do different activities together. A lot of long distance couples are doing this now, or people who are trying to do online dating. They try to do things together, like they'll probably watch a movie and then kind of critique it together later on, read a book. I mean, there are so many things you can do. So yeah, I think I would personally recommend going on video calls, because that's what's helped me the most. And I mean, I think you can do outdoor activities as well if you really abide with the social distancing protocols. Maintain your distance from each other, and so go out, go hiking, and I mean, obviously be careful while you do it. Wear your mask and everything. But yeah, I still think outdoor activities is an option for those who prefer to meet in person.
I just, when this episode comes out, I will have already released an episode on the Clubhouse app. Have you joined Clubhouse yet? Are you familiar with that app?
No, I'm not.
It just kind of recently became very popular, and it's only available for iPhone users right now. But I'd encourage you to check it out. And even those listeners who are listening now that maybe didn't catch my last episode, you can check it out. It is an app that basically is just audio. It's an audio chat app on your phone. There's
Mhm.
no messaging, and you jump into what you could call chat rooms. They just call them rooms, and they're based on topics. So you can create a topic around anything you want, and there are all different categories from wellness to finances to kids to family to hobbies. And you can name the room, and then people will literally just jump in, and you can begin to chat with
Wow.
them and talk voice to voice. You can't see each other. You can't message each other. It's tied to your profile, so they can click on and learn about you on Instagram. But I've actually been developing new connections through Clubhouse just over the last couple of weeks of people that I would never meet. I did a coaching session for a couple hours on Clubhouse the other day, and was talking to a lady in India, talking to a lady in Norway, talking to a lady, people here in the United States, to bring some coaching. If you're not looking to provide coaching, but you're just looking to network or connect, it is an incredible app. So encourage people to check that out. And I
Yeah.
encourage you to check it out because I think you would love it. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for recommending that. I'll definitely check it out. I've never heard of it.
Do you have an iPhone or an Android, Celine?
I have an Android.
I'm embarrassed for you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I think I can access it on my iPad. I have an iPad, so
I don't know if it works on iPad. Maybe it does, but
I can try.
you could do an iPhone emulator. I bet you've maybe got one of those.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
I feel like
so
I'm living in the Stone Age right now.
why is that?
Yeah, because I've not heard of all these technologies and these apps you're talking about. But
Well, it's pretty brand new. Yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty. I think you'd like it.
yeah, I'll definitely check it
Okay, so I want to hear an example of a situation where you've had kind of a challenging experience with a relationship, but you were
out.
able to kind of turn it around because there are
Hmm.
oftentimes we all come up with challenging situations
Hmm.
in relationships, whether it's a friend, a family member, a roommate, and you know, you can either just walk away or ignore it or push through and somehow create an actual meaningful relationship. Do you have an
Yeah.
example in your own life of something like that?
I mean, it used to happen constantly. I mean, I think all of us encounter um, triggering situations, people that trigger us. But I've become better at managing that when meeting difficult people over the years. But I noticed that one a recurring pattern that I used to have was judging people based on their communication style.
Hmm.
And let me explain that a little bit more. So certain cultures, they communicate in a very direct way,
Mm-hmm.
which can come off as being really harsh. I remember this one time when I was at Gainesville, Florida. I was doing it was a coaching workshop, and I met these two ladies from Germany. And I don't know if you've ever met Germans, but any German, but like I found it difficult to communicate with them because of the way that they talked. They did not mince their words. They tell you exactly what they think, no filters. And this was a problem when we were doing activities together, and I needed them to give me feedback.
Hmm.
And I was getting offended.
Hmm.
Uh, I was getting offended. I was like, what's wrong with these people? Um, but then after a few days, like this workshop was around a week, 1 week, and I started noticing them doing little things that were really kind and nice. They would get me a cup of water, they would get me a cookie, they would ask me how I am. Same tone of voice, hasn't changed.
Sure.
I started to think, oh my gosh, I got them all wrong. They're actually really thoughtful
Hmm.
and considerate people. So I started to realize that you should not judge people based on the way they communicate, especially if there's a linguistic difference, if there's a cultural difference. So I look past that now, and I really try to see them for who they are. I give them a chance. Um, and so yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that seemingly challenging people can teach you a lot about yourself, and you can become better in the process. I perceive them as being difficult, but then as I dug deeper, I really saw that, there was a problem in the way I was perceiving them. And that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you do meet really difficult people who give you a hard time.
Sure,
but
sure.
but I think it's like, stay open and get curious. Like, why is this bothering me? Like, what could I be getting something wrong here? Or can they teach me? You know what I mean? Like, try to search for the kernel of wisdom, because I found that it's there somewhere.
I think one of the phrases that helps me in situations like that is seek to understand.
Right.
Is trying to understand someone else's perspective, or their words, or their tone of voice, all of that. Yeah, that could be super helpful. One last question for you. If you were to think about your own life, a meaningful relationship that you have right now, what's one that comes to mind, and what do you love about that person?
Definitely my mom. My mom. I know it's so cliche, but what I love about my mom is that she's more than just a mom. She's my best friend. Like, I can tell her anything, and I don't have to worry about being judged. And even if she can't give me advice, she holds space for me. The other day I was going through something, and I needed to vent. Let's just put it that way. And she just listened, and she was, she didn't say anything. And then she's like, "Oh, I understand." And that was enough. That was enough. That was so just being around her is very therapeutic. She genuinely has a very maternal instinct, and she's very nurturing. And that, I think that's what I look for in all my relationships. I ask myself, especially if I want a commitment, and I want to really get close to them, the first thing I want to know is, can I trust this person, and do they have my back? Will they have my back? Because that's not always the case. People are not always consistent in the way they treat you and their behavior. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to judge them. But if I want to get close to you, and even if it's in a professional sense, like if we're going to become business partners, I want to know that you're going to deliver, and you're going to stay true to your commitment. So I think, if you have relationships like that, really hold on to them. Like, they're rare. They're absolutely rare. So yeah, I mean, definitely my mom. She's my rock for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, people can check out your website, which is thedreamcatch.com, which you post articles on a regular basis. And you've got the Dreamcatcher podcast. And also you've got an ebook called The Fast Track Guide to Creating Your Dream Life, which is available at thedreamcatch.com. Tell me more about that ebook, and why, how somebody would benefit from reading that.
Right. I mean, when you hear the title, it might seem like a really tall order. So what I'm basically offering is like a template of the basic steps that you can take to, just the initial steps you need to take to begin building those tracks that will take you towards whatever goal or vision that you have in mind. So it's a book filled with tools and exercises and reflective questions that you can ask yourself. And those who have downloaded they've got a lot from it. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's free. And I also want to mention my book, Beauty Redefined, since most of your audience are female. They might find some value in that, especially even if they could even gift it to their daughter, or, any other female members of their family or friends who is struggling with body image issues or who needs a boost of confidence. I think they'll find a lot of value in that book. They can download a free chapter of the book at beautyredefinedbook.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Seline, thanks for being with us today and sharing about relationships and how we can cultivate those during this crazy time.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, I think you share some good nuggets of wisdom, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jade. I love talking to you again. Thank you.